I actually have a question based. I mean, it's not totally based off what you're saying, but I always want to educate as much as possible because I'm not there all the time. So when you see the news about Sacramento pop up, what is the first thing that comes to mind? And I'll ask like some follow-ups to mix into that. If the A's don't end up pulling off Las Vegas, is Sacramento looked at as a total fail or like, oh, I can get there a little bit easier and maybe also ownership will change eventually? That's like one layer. The other layer to me that I still haven't gotten a great explanation on is, didn't the Kings almost move out of Sacramento?
Mhm.
And now we have a city nearby that's stripping away a team and helping to give them a life raft to put a team there, which I'm sure, I don't know the guy at all, Vivek or whatever. I'm
Mhm.
sure he's pretty bright. And I know he's probably got 80 business deals with John Fisher on the side for other things. He might have an inkling that he might be able to pull off owning a franchise in Sacramento one day and helping to uplift that city and to uplift his finances further. So I'm curious from your perspective, from both of you, to get like deep inside the passionate A's fans, where we're at there, because I don't totally have a grip on that situation.
I
This is it's interesting. We've had this discussion, Alex and I.
oh,
So
a million
Alex, you
times.
should
Yeah.
start off. You should
Well,
go
Okay.
for it.
well, yeah. I've kind of I've after talking to some A's fans, like honestly, this conversation of how right field will kind of changed what I was thinking. I thought it would be like a loss. I thought like if they left Oakland, it would be total loss. But I was talking to Will and right field Will, he's like super diehard A's fan. He still goes to games every. Now they'll pan out. He'll be like the only guy out there now in section 149. But he was like, you know what? I'll still go to games up if they're up in Sacramento. He's like, I'll never step foot in that stadium in Vegas, but I'll go to that game in Sacramento. So I was kind of looking to Will for guidance, and I don't know. I feel like it would be a softer landing in Sacramento, And I think there is a lot of truth to what you're saying about Vivek. I think he's looking at Fisher and being like, yo, if he fumbles this deal, I'm not, they're already in Sacramento, and I have a place where I can build a new stadium, and I think there's some truth to that, and in the Vegas, I think in July we'll have a lot more clarity. They're expected to have that development agreement, but I was actually going to ask you too what you thought about Sacramento or Vegas, but I think it's more likely they end up in Sacramento just because I think all this Vegas stuff is going to eventually fall apart, but we'll see.
I,
Well,
I
one,
think I think a
yeah,
ton of people. I think you talk to a ton of people, especially like the ride or die like Oakland 68 guys. They say anything. They would say like San Jose isn't good enough. And that I understand that, right? Like Oakland's your city, and that you're wanting to support your community. And Sacramento's not really your community. It's not really your city. Um, I think I think the the way that I view this is that like the A's fans are in such a terrible position, but we've done so much work to try and expose this nonsense. We've raised tons of money to sue the state of Nevada. I don't know if that's having an effect. It might be having an effect on John Fisher's ability to get business partners. I don't know if the fact that John Fisher looks like a complete and utter putz is affecting his ability to get investors. It might be, but we've done those things. If 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 it results in the A's sort of being stranded in Sacramento, I don't think anyone would be happy with the A's continued to be owned by John Fisher in Sacramento. I think that that's sort of like a bad a bad situation. But if they are in Sacramento and there's an ownership change, and obviously the hope is maybe Oakland could get them back, but even if they end up in Sacramento full time with a different owner, to me, I have to look at all of the fellow fans, this entire fandom, and saying, you helped this happen, and a good compromise leaves both parties aggrieved. So, in some sense, you just like take your wins where you can get them. And I think that that's a win. Um, I wouldn't be super like in love with it and happy with it, but in some sense, it's a win. And the I don't want to speak for the entire culture of Oakland. But I think in a lot of sense, the culture of Oakland is, you know, in we're not San Francisco kind of thing, you know? So you talked about the Nets moving to Brooklyn, where
Yes.
like I think like the whole thing of like New Jersey is we're not New York, right? But they're moving to New York. Oakland, and Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I don't feel like that the culture of Oakland is we're not Sacramento as much, where it's like, okay, we'll go there. I don't think, I think for a lot of people, it won't feel like that they're theirs anymore. But there's also there's a ton of A's fans out in the east, in the East Bay suburbs and stuff where at that point, you're almost to Sacramento anyway. So absolutely, I think that would be a win. The thing with Vivek that just drives me nuts is what you brought up there was when we were first organizing, I think about a year ago, I remember being on a conference call with 3 or 4 people who were like from the fan group of the Kings, and they have a fan group that's less militant than the Oakland 68s. But
Is it a Crown Downtown? Is it that one?
yeah, I don't know if it was them or somebody else.
Yeah.
But there are also communist autocracies that are less militant than the Oakland 68s. So um, the they were on the phone with us and they were sharing their experience and how they what they found was most helpful to fight back. And in many senses they felt like allies at the time. And I'm not saying that they did this, right? Like the people of Sacramento didn't do this. It was Vivek. And Vivek he's from Silicon Valley. He's not from Sacramento. He's from Palo Alto or something, right? Like he only is there because that was the team for sale. So, he's there because they needed, the city of Sacramento needed a billionaire to buy the team and save the team. And, all I can say is like, this is the problem is when you require billionaires to be the people who save your team, the sign says sell to who? I don't know, to some fucking billionaire. Like, not me, I can't afford it. But
Joe
you know,
Lacob.
the
We all know
sure,
Joe Lacob.
right?
I mean, I don't know him that well, but I guarantee you he would do a better job than John Fisher would do. And I could probably come up with, most names in the country that would do a better job, right? So, yes,
Yeah.
I agree, right? It's not like we're going to suddenly take over the Oakland A's, but there are many other more viable
Yeah. No, but I'm just saying, like, it's so frustrating to think like that the Kings fans went through this and now that they're sort of stealing our team, but it's just some billionaire, Vivek, who buys the team. And I'm sure he's a good businessman and I'm sure he's a much better operator than John Fisher. John Fisher would never give anyone free rent. So, like, obviously, but it definitely has left a sour taste, I think, in my mouth. But I get it. Like, the people of Sacramento want their own team. Everyone deserves their own team. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of, I think that the best system is, promotion relegation like they have in Europe. I think everybody should have, each city should have their own professional team that has a chance of making it, So I don't begrudge the people of Sacramento for being excited about it. I don't begrudge the people of Las Vegas for being excited about it. Although I do wonder how many of them actually exist, but or at least excited about John Fisher.